to the North Tower, Tower 1. And I thought, wow, that is a crazy accident. A pilot must have made a terrible mistake and accidentally crashed into the tower. That's what I believed. The thing is, it was a beautiful, clear, blue sky morning. Not a cloud in the sky. So it didn't really make sense that it would be an accident, but that's what I believed and that's what I wanted to believe in. And a few minutes later, as I'm watching, suddenly another explosion. A plane flew into the frame and crashed into Tower 2. Huge boom again. I could hear it, not just on TV, but I could just hear it myself. And at that moment, everyone who was watching around the world, and by the way, it was a globally witnessed event in real time. Pretty much anywhere in the world that had television access, this was being transmitted onto television. And people all over the world were watching. And at that moment, I would say most of us watching knew, wow, that is not an accident, that has to be an intentional act. Yes, it was. It was a terrorist attack. The jihadist group Al-Qaeda had attacked us using 19 terrorists. 19 terrorists split up into 4 teams, and each of those teams hijacked a plane here in the United States. And they didn't just hijack the planes, they literally took control of the planes because several of the hijackers had learned how to fly at a flight school in the United States. So, they took over the controls of those planes and they flew 2 of the planes into the Twin Towers, 1 each. They flew a 3rd plane into the Pentagon, which is the headquarters of the United States military, the United States Department of Defense, in a place called Arlington, Virginia, just across the river from our nation's capital, Washington, D.C. And a 4th plane crashed in a field in Pennsylvania, about an hour outside of Pittsburgh. But that plane was not headed to crash into that field. That plane was flying towards Washington, D.C. And an investigation revealed that the terrorists on board that plane were looking to crash that plane into Washington, most likely the United States Capitol building. But they didn't make it. They didn't make it because brave people on board of that flight, United Airlines Flight 93, decided to fight back. And by fighting back, they disrupted their plans. And the terrorists, fearing that they were about to be overrun by those passengers and crew, decided to crash the plane in a last-ditch effort to cause death and destruction. And then back here in New York City, something unconscionable happened, which is that the towers collapsed. Just before 10 o'clock in the morning, Tower 2 crumbled down upon itself. At that point, I had left my apartment. I was watching from the riverfront in Brooklyn. Could not believe what I was seeing. I didn't even understand what I was seeing. And suddenly this big cloud of debris started moving towards Brooklyn, and then things started to fall out of the sky. It looked like confetti. And that confetti started to land on my face. When that happened, I turned around, ran back to my apartment, and closed the windows. And all of Lower Manhattan was filled with this dust and debris. And about a half hour later, Tower 1 crumbled as well. Folks, from the time that Tower 1 was hit to the time that Tower 1 collapsed was 1 hour and 42 minutes. That's it. And in that short amount of time, nearly 3,000 people were killed. Folks, there's only a few places around the globe where you can say the course of history changed, where there was an inflection point in human existence. And one of those places is across the street. My friends, I told you that the church became a command post. The responders used the church for the next 9 months in between very hard shifts